Hey there, Karen and Scott. I made you a list of potential accommodations in different areas of Iceland. Karen mentioned something of around 10 days. I've done the entire island in 5, excluding the West Fjords. However, that's not ideal. So 10 you could get around the entire island, and I'll take you on a little map visit around just to kind of further clarify. So what I put on this list is I put car rental options. I was saying don't get a tin can. The wind can be so strong it can take the paint off cars in the desert if you go up there. So I'd get like a Golf or something, or even a Kia SUV, something a little heavier than normal. September, generally, the weather is still good. You won't have any snow, but you never know. It's mostly maybe just rain and nice weather, hopefully. So, another accommodation tips I wanted to say is most have breakfast included unless you stay in a place that has just a kitchen area. Um, and a double room means a bed for two, like a queen or a king size, and twin means separate beds. I had a while to get used to that. So what I did was divide the island up into different areas: west, north, south, and east for you to take a look at. In west, we have Stock Surrey. Let me get that up on the map. Okay, so Iceland's the size of Kentucky, by the way, just to give you a figure. So when you arrive, okay, Reykjavik is the capital. You come into Keflavik Airport, which is kind of out here in this area here. It'll show you the airport. See Keflavik. And so depending on where you go, I'm kind of like a clockwise type of person. However, you can go either way. One of the reasons why, if I go around the island, I go up around, is this area is quite downhill, so it kind of saves you some gas coming down instead of going back up. But when you arrive, you can decide whether you just want to go in Reykjavik and stay a couple of days or a day overnight outside. I sent you some accommodations on that. Or you can go to a town called Stocksary. And Stocksary is this here. It's about an hour and a half from the airport. And what I like about Stocksary, I have a friend who has a horse farm right on the ocean, so you could do a black sand beach. I also have a friend on Facebook, Kiba. I've stayed at her place. She has a beautiful little guest house right on the ocean. And you could request the room with the balcony overlooking the ocean. It's amazing. The very famous lobster restaurant is in this area as well, and some other cool historic ideas. But you could always do that on your way back too if you decide to go around the island. The next thing I put on the list was in Reykjavik. Booking.com has a lot of options. Just go with reviews because things change. So it's not easy for me to say, and I don't know your price point. So one place I did put on there is Blue House that I had my driver stay last time, and it's out by the kind of the lighthouse. So it's within a very short distance to the city, but at the same time you feel a little bit more remote. It's up to you in that case. So next we go west, and in the west there's not too much up until you get to something called Snæfellsnes, which is up here in the, let me just move the map closer to that area. Excuse me. So this is Snæfellsnes, which is a peninsula that's kind of more remote, and a lot of people don't go there, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. There's an area just, okay, so picture, this is Reykjavik here. This is about an hour and a half to this area. So what I love about this area is there's beautiful white sand beaches you can ride. Also, Snæfellsnesjökull, they think that's where aliens came from, out of the volcano. The word Jökull means glacier-covered volcano, which is Iceland has the language only has, sorry. The word Jökull means glacier-covered volcano, which is the only language that has a word like that. So if you see Jökull, it's a glacier that used to be a volcano. So that area is beautiful. There's really amazing rock formations in the water around this area. Olafsvik is beautiful. The cut over here is gorgeous. There are caves up there. There's all kinds of really, really cool stuff. Grundafjordur, you could look up that. Fjordur is fjord. So that area is nice. I put you two places possibility over here. I've stayed in Grundafjordur. There's an amazing restaurant over there, but I didn't find the accommodations so great. There's one place just outside the city that's a cabin, and that's a possibility too. So Snæfellsnes is a gorgeous area. I think it's a must see. Okay, so the next area here we have is the West Fjords, and this is optional. The West Fjords are kind of remote, like really remote, like even Icelandic people don't go there. It's all haunted up here with ghosts and stuff. That's a decision you can make whether, you know, this might be too much if you decide to go over the island. Maybe sometime you just want to do the West Fjords another trip. But if you want to go around the island or if you just want to stay in Iceland, that might be a decent choice. Where I have you staying is Heydalur Farm, and basically you leave Snæfellsnes and you travel up, and some of these roads are kind of dirt roads. They're all in good shape, but they're pretty cool. In the middle here, there's a really nice horse farm that I put on your list called Heydalur. That's the area where it had a hot spring that was built over 100 years ago right into the river. They also have a pool and a hot tub in a greenhouse, and then one outside. I love their horses up there. Kimberly went up. I think she could talk more about it too with you, but I really like it in that area. You're talking beachy fjord area, and there's some potential for good hiking and kayaking up there too. So this whole area, the West Fjords up in the top left corner, that's all like that could take a whole entire trip because it is very windy and remote. So that's up to you whether to go. I think it's beautiful. The head town there is Ísafjörður, which is up in the top left corner here, and that has one of the world's most famous fishing restaurants, like fish. It's incredible. But it is quite a stretch from the farm, so it's up to you whether you want to go this. If you look kind of in the middle of the screen now, middle upper, you end up in Blönduós, which is now North Iceland. And that area is cool. That's where Kimberly's friend, who's a sheep and horse farmer, and you may be able to arrange some accommodations with him. If you're not successful, I could help you in that area, but I would probably tell you to go to Siglufjörður, which is at the top right corner by the waffle. And that town is gorgeous fjord. All that area is lovely, lovely. If you continue from Siglufjörður east down, we have Dalvik, and Akureyri is the second largest city in Iceland. I wouldn't suggest maybe staying in that town. You could, but it's certainly a nice place if you stayed in Siglufjörður and decided to go in for lunch. That would be a nice place to wander. Okay, and from North Iceland, I said Blönduós, talked about Akureyri, Mývatn. Mývatn is an area close to the high desert in Iceland. There's like one of my favorite waterfalls is up there. If you look at Akureyri, which is in the kind of top left where the blue, the fjord comes in, and you go just a little bit further east, there's a place to stay in that area, and there's horse farms there. Mývatn is really cool because it's like, see those lakes? Mý means fly, so it's Flyvatn Lake. So Fly Lake. So the summer is horrible up there, but the fall is fine, and the colors are beautiful up there. Let me just look and get even closer. So Mývatn has a lot of lava, a lot of really nice hiking, and some gorgeous waterfalls up there as you go east to Dettifoss. So I would say stay in Mývatn like 2 nights where I told you, and then you go to Dettifoss on the way east. Dettifoss is the one in Prometheus, the movie Prometheus. If you go on Google Maps, you can actually click on and see pictures in different areas, which is kind of a cool feature for you to look. So as you could tell, Dettifoss is in the middle of nowhere. But this is number 1 is the main road that goes to Iceland around the island. So then you could head, like I haven't done too much of the top part, Húsavík and stuff. That's whaling areas and stuff like that. It looks pretty, but it doesn't look anything more exceptional than I've seen. Okay, now I brought you to East Iceland. I put some kind of examples on there in the East Fjords. There's a couple of cool places to stay. One being Seyðisfjörður. This town has almost 2 months of complete darkness because the mountains surrounding um, are too high for the sun to get above in the winter. So it's kind of an artsy area, um, Seyðisfjörður. So where we were before was Mývatn, and Mývatn down to Seyðisfjörður is maybe 2.5, 3 hours, depending on the weather. Egilsstaðir is nice too. We can see in the middle of the screen. And Valanis, all this area, there actually is an Icelandic forest in that area, which is very, very rare in Iceland. There's not too many trees. So this area in the east this area is lovely. The one to the far right is Neskaupstadr, and that's where my horse farm is. It's called Skorahester. It's on your PDF I sent you. My friend Dodie owns that. There's a really nice swimming pool with hot pots in that town too. And him and his wife, Suna, his daughter Suna, his wife's Austa, I think, they'll spoil you with food and stuff like that. And beautiful riding in that area. So this is a quite remote area, and sometimes you're up high and sometimes you're going through tunnels and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting terrain for sure. I love the West Fjords. Okay, so as we head southwest from the East Fjords, there's a couple of different ways you can come depending on where you stay in the roads. One of my favorite waterfalls in Iceland, it's pretty remote, is close to where that star is, kind of by this little village. I still haven't figured out how to pronounce it. So all this area is kind of windy and cool, but in this area you're kind of down by the water. You're not up as high, which is kind of cool. And then if you go to the far bottom of the screen, you see a town called Hofen, and that had one of the best restaurants I've eaten at recently. A fish restaurant. I had halibut that was to die for. Another place I mentioned to stay on your list here is the Hotel Holly, and it'd be considered southeast Iceland. So maybe Hofen would be a nice place to eat dinner, but I love the Holly because that's where the char farm is, and I think that's one of my favorite because the author Thorbergur Thordarson's from there, and the Holly is right in the southeast, and it's close to something called Jökulsárlón, which is the glacier lagoon. But there's actually a secret lagoon I found I can get you to that has less people and more ice generally. So now we're kind of in the southeast. You can see Jökulsárlón here, and just to give you a bigger picture, you have Hofen and Hop, which are two different places. And this big green area is Vatnajökull. It's the second or third largest glacier and shrinking in Europe right now. And so that has tremendous hiking by Hop, and it also has ice for you to see, and glacier walks, beach walks with ice. It's a really cool area, so I'd suggest you stay at the Holly at least one night, maybe two. I love it there. And then you'll be heading west. Okay, another area to look for is Kirkjubæjarklaustur, and that's like one of the largest, longest names in Iceland. You can tell it's a Northern Germanic language. So Kirkjubæjarklaustur is kind of in between. If you see in the island towards the west, we can see the far left. You see Reykjavik. So Kirkjubæjarklaustur is about 3.5 hours from Keflavik Airport, depending on the weather and how fast you drive. So that's kind of a cool area. Not 100% cool with like the best accommodations. I've had decent meals and decent accommodations, not as amazing as other places or meaningful, but they have a couple of cool options to look at there. So depending on where you stayed the night before, you might be able to cover everything in that area and get as far as Vik. And in Vik is a stunning little town. If you see that kind of peninsula down the bottom left, that's the Black Sand Beach, and there's a beautiful hotel I have on there called Black Beach Suites. I'm not sure what they're going for these days, but they're complete kitchens. Like you have basically an apartment overlooking the ocean, and the Black Sand Beach is amazing with rock formations. There's some decent riding in that area. um, but expensive, getting more expensive, I find. And then when you further go west, that's where we stay at Kauri's former farm with Geesley and Austa. Between Vik, which is in the way bottom right, and Selfus, there's a lot of, well, actually more towards Hetla. There's amazing waterfalls in there to visit. So that, like, if you stayed in the Black Beach Suites a couple of nights, you could do a bunch of different areas around there. Um, and if you were interested in staying at the ranch or the barn where we stayed, it's kind of between, it's kind of more like Selfus, between Hetla and Selfus, somewhere in there. So that's the barn where you stay, ride, and eat, kind of like my guy Scora Hester in the east. And that's kind of a cool thing to see. And this peninsula is amazing too. Strandakirkja is a very famous church in Iceland. I could tell you more about it. So I just wanted to share this with you. I hope I wasn't too long, but hopefully it'll answer some questions about the PDF and accommodations and where you want to stay. If you see other ones that look interesting, just look at the reviews and because I think, and the most recent reviews, because things change. And where I've sent you in most of these places have locals versus other people coming to Iceland and working, which is kind of important for me. And I hope you enjoy your planning. And what I love about Google Maps, if you click on an area, you can say, oh, I wonder what's in Borgarnes. You can click on the town and you can see what it looks like, and you can also just Google search areas to see what's there. So, in any case, I hope this helps you get started and get booking soon. I'm also going to send you my itinerary so you know where I am each night.